Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting on February 11th, 2014.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 18, 2013, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in both the Daily Record on December 20, 2013, and the Star Ledger on December 23, 2013, and was forwarded and faxed to other local newspapers and radio stations on December 18, 2013. No council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 12 p.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Paluso.
Present.
Mr. Stanton.
Here.
Mr. Valori.
Here.
Council President Karifi.
Here. Also present, Mayor Barberio, Jasmine Lim, Business Administrator, Paula Cazzarelli, Assistant Business Administrator, John Inglesino, Esquire, Township Attorney, Yancey Resermis, Township Clerk, and Joseph Kowalczyk, CFO. Ask everyone to rise for flag salute. Mr. DePiero, if you lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Upcoming meetings, March 11th, 2014, 7:30 p.m., the agenda meeting, and March 18th, 2014, at 7:30 p.m., regular meeting. Presentations. Mayor?
Anyway, I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate the Parsippany High School field hockey team who had an outstanding year this year. How are you, 20-2? 14-0 in their conference, and I'll tell you, when I heard that, like my secretary, she couldn't stop telling me the whole time. I guess she knows some people in the school. But that's wonderful, how you represent the township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. And I want to congratulate you on your success. So I have here certificates on behalf of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, myself and also from the Town Council as well. They're here to congratulate you as well. I'm going to call the coaches up first because, can you hear me back there? Yes, I'm doing good, wow. How's that? Better? All right, good.
All right.
So you're going to help me hand these out. So I'm going to start with the coaches. I'm going to read the first certificate. The Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Outstanding Achievement Award, presented to Coach Rebecca Linenthal, Parsippany High School 2013 Field Hockey Varsity Team for an outstanding season, 20-2, 14-0, NJAC. NJAC Freedom Division undefeated champions 2012 and 13. Congratulations, Coach. So I can handle the coaches. There's a lot. You know, it's nice being up here. You get to see some of the kids. I mean, I can see some of the faces, and I knew them since they were this big. I mean, to see them grow up. I mean, Victor Rossi, I'm friends with him, and Mr. Lips. I mean, it's really rewarding as the mayor to see how everyone grows up and how successful you become. Same thing. I'm not going to read every single certificate. Pretty much says the same thing. Assistant coach Amanda Jagessa. She's not here. Assistant coach Stephanie Fasano. Congratulations, Stephanie. That's for you. Assistant coach Michelle Nicoletta. Assistant coach Colleen Smith. Now the most important part, the team, the players. Can't win without the players. got to ask you girls a question. I played street hockey when I was a kid with a stick that was this tall. When I see that little stick and how you have to bend down, forget it. I would have never made it. And I wasn't very good at field hockey either. I mean, street hockey either. Okay, we're going to start with the players. Now you're going to have to help me. We'll be here all day. I'll grow the rest of my beard. Funny. All right. Kristen Mayers. Huh? Congratulations, Kristen. I heard you're a very outstanding player. You going to Cornell? Wow. Oh, don't be shy. It's okay. Yeah, stay up here. Yeah, because we're going to take photos. Victoria Rossi. Juliana Diatinis. There you go. You look like your mom. That's a good thing. Emily Davis. Congratulations, Emily. Katie Lips. You're welcome. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. What's wrong with me? I'm lefty, that's why. Okay, that's good to have you. Say it again. Oh, Faye Cabacang. Congratulations, Faye. Yeah. Jasmine Chen. Our business administrator loves the first name. Her name's happens to be Jasmine, too. It's cool, isn't it? Here you go. Congratulations. Caitlin Pinero. Congratulations, Caitlin. Bernadette Corpries. You're welcome. Megan Maxwell. How's your mom, Megan? I was just here a quick check, so. Amanda Maxwell. How are you, Amanda? Good. Yep. Skylar Gone. Congratulations. Mom's happy. I can see that. Okay, that's Alexis Panfile. Brittany Scanelli. Hello, Brittany. There you go. Congratulations. Julia Crevis. Congratulations. I saw your dad's Facebook picture the other day, and I was, Hey, Mark, how are you? Antonio Muro. Congratulations. Lillian Tran. Congratulations. And that's it. Okay, don't go nowhere yet. We're going to call the principal up. Come on, you're going to come into a picture. We're going to ask the town council to stand.
I am.
That was good.
All right, we need the girls in 2 rows. I just want to say one thing before we take pictures. I have to move this out of the way. Ladies, I want to thank you for so graciously. Okay, that's okay. graciously representing the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. You make a lot of us very, very proud in your accomplishments. But after this, we're going to go in the parking lot, and we're going to have a race and see if you can beat me. All right, let's get this done. You guys up? Actually, Brian, stand up. One more. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Congratulations.
We're just going to take a 2-minute break if you guys, I don't know if you guys want to stay for the rest of the meeting or you want to leave. Now would be your chance to leave.
That's it.
Good night. Congratulations.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Take care.
Take care.
Take care now.
Everybody sitting over here wants to move in closer.
Just going.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, how much time are you giving? So make sure you share.
Okay, we're going to get started. Bids to be taken, none. Requests for quotations, proposals, qualifications, none. Ordinances, second reading and public hearing. Ordinance 2014-01. Mr. DePiero?
Ordinance 2014:01, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, accepting an easement on a portion of Block 770, Lot 1, as shown on the official tax map of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills for stormwater management purposes. The notice of the ordinance was the notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on January 17th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Okay, we're going to open this motion up to the public on this motion only. Entertain a motion to open this to the public.
I'll make a motion.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Okay, see no one come forward. Entertain a motion to close to the public hearing for ordinance
make a motion.
2014.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading, and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Ordinance number 2014:02. Mr. Paluso.
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to amend and supplement Chapter 290 entitled Parks, Recreation Areas, and Public Lands, Article 1 of the Code of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. The notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on January 17, 2014. Motion to accept that ordinance 2014:2 will be heard on second and final reading by title only.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Entertain a motion to open up this ordinance and this ordinance only to the public?
Make a motion.
Yes.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Pat Patacha, 182 Hawkins Avenue. I questioned this last week. Instead of exemptions or something, couldn't you just change that to say that that's part of his responsibilities? This is for the utility fee that he doesn't have to pay, right? The superintendent of the Knoll Country Club, right? That he doesn't pay when he goes around. Couldn't this just be changed to say, instead of, he doesn't have to pay the utility fee, just say as part of his job, Okay? Just a suggestion.
Anyone else? See no one come forward. Entertain a motion to close to the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held therein, now therefore let be resolved that the said ordinance be passed on final reading and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in a newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution above by.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Make a motion. Open up public hearing.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Okay, you'll be given 5 minutes. When you come up, if you could please state your name, address, and sign in.
Yes. Speak on any topic. Yes.
Yes, speak. This is to speak on any topic.
Get everybody motivated here.
Hi, Julia Peterson, 25 Old Parsippany Road, speaking as a private citizen, not as a member of the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. Although I am bearing documents from the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. And I have one question, which is, when we talk about the dam, Forge Pond, dam footprint, and is the footprint of the pond included in the 130 acres that is being given to the town? No. So the dam site includes the footprint of the pond. Is that true?
The 130 acres is separate from the dam.
Yeah, but the pond area.
I don't recall the exact area, but there is an area just in front of the pond that is included in the dam property, Forge Pond Dam property.
Okay. All right. And what I did was I had talked to a couple of people, and I wanted to make sure that the people on the council, because we've had turnover on the council, I wanted to make sure that you had some information about this since you're talking about it. And I brought a picture set and this, and then this is, I have one copy of this. I'll be happy to email anybody. This is the 15-page summary of what the whole history of the Forge Pond everything that happened there from 1990 till 2013. So this is, as I say, I don't want to print it out. I can give you this one copy.
You give one copy to the town, and we'll each get a copy.
Sure, but I'd be happy to email it. It's a file on my computer, so I'm going to give these to Yancy, and she can pass them out.
That'd
Okay.
be great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll sign this.
Mr. Inglesino, as I recall, most of the pond is within the 130 acres that we've already have.
Most of the pond is, I believe
Most
that's
of the
correct.
pond is, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
just the area near the dam that we don't really have a meets and bounds yet for, right?
that's correct.
Ken Dolsky, 21 Winfield Drive. I'll be very brief tonight. I gave you all a package, I sent you all an email. So first, if you had any questions, comments, or anything on the information that I sent, if anything wasn't clear, or you wanted to discuss anything now or whatever, you have my contact information. So was there anything in there about the JCP&L line? I guess, okay. All right, there are a number of homeowners who braved the cold and came out tonight who would like to talk, tell you what their thoughts are and how they feel about this. So we'll start with my wife, Elaine.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Dolsky. I live at 21 Winfield Drive. My family has lived here for 40 years. We are horrified that JCP&L is planning to run their power line right through our yard. Not just an easement, but the power line itself. We have lots of trees on our property that are not only beautiful by themselves, but provide a buffer between us and the back of the shopping center where Bed Bath & Beyond is and Home Depot and so forth. The trees also hide the horrible, ugly, disgusting new green giant PSE&G poles. Cutting down all of the trees right up to 20 feet from my backyard, my back door, actually, is just unimaginable. It would be horrible. How can I even look out my back door or sit on my deck and enjoy the property that I've enjoyed for 40 years? On top of all this, not only would I be looking at wires, I would have a pole in my yard. This is unacceptable. There's no way that JCP&L could compensate us for living with this nightmare unless they bought the whole property. And I doubt that that will happen. I'm here this evening along with other homeowners, Winfield Drive, and Norman Avenue in Lake Hiawatha. We're all here to ask you, please help us avoid all of this, and we appreciate your attention and efforts on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Steve Tiso, Steve Tiso, 5 Winfield Drive. After meeting with JCP&L held at the Holiday Inn, immediately after that, I came home and measured my yard according to their plans on how they were going to set their power lines up. Okay? We soon found that over 30 of our trees would be cut down that presently line our backyard. Overhead wires will run straight through our yard, severely limiting the usage of most of our outdoor property. As this isn't enough, there's a real possibility that a pole could be located right in the middle of our yard, about 30 feet from my house. JCP&L plans, their plans is that they'll leave us with a bird's eye view of high voltage electric field. Emotionally, I compare this to a series of railroad tracks running straight through my backyard. At present, I have a view of 2 enormous green monsters. We all know what they are. the poles. Isn't this enough negative impact by a power company for one resident? I was a volunteer for the first aid squad for Parsippany. So, 10 years. So all I'm asking is for a little support from you guys to help us fight against JCP&L. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you everyone for giving me the chance to share my concern. And I
Could you
would
just
say it's
state
kind of...
your name and address?
Yes, of course. My name is Sangrami Lahiri, and I'm from number 9 Winfield Drive, sharing my property along with Ken and Steve. We are all on the same road, and we share the same concern. So mine is a little different. I have not lived so many years on Winfield Drive like the other residents did. When we came here in New Jersey, I was looking for a home in New Jersey to buy, and in 2010, we visited this property, 9 Winfield Drive, and myself and my husband, we absolutely fell in love with the property, standing in the kitchen, which is facing the backyard, and which is a very nice backyard, doesn't have any property lining it, and also it opens into an easement which is meant for the gas lines and the power lines. So you can imagine the beauty of that pristine and serene environment that we fell in love with when we first visited the house. So we bought the property in 2010. Now we could enjoy the beauty only for 3 years because the beauty is already gone. One fine morning last winter, we saw that there was enormous activity in the easement and all the creatures in the forest. And in fact, I don't know whether it is relevant to mention it over here or not. We proudly boast a bobcat in our backyard. Definitely a lot of squirrels and one coyote and whatnot. An opossum, which sometimes come into my backyard, and they are all friend of ours. We love and we enjoy the environment along with them. So what happened is that last winter, there was suddenly an enormous amount of activities in our backyard. And one fine morning, we saw that the green giant poles, that time they didn't have wires, but they were erected in front of our backyard. So one thing is gone, but still we had some savior. Our backyard is tree-lined, which was another point of attraction when we bought the house. And those trees were matured enough. I would say that they have grown up for 30 or more years. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been such gigantic trees. And they're beautiful. They bear green leaves in the summer, and in the fall, they give us beautiful colors. So those trees have saved us from the ugly view of the green giants raised in our backyard, raised in the easement so far. Now what I'm hearing is that there will be a second set of poles. Can you just imagine that we already have one set of green poles, giant poles, and already one set of electric wires. And if you pass by the road from which it starts, it already says danger because these are high voltage wires. So we do not know what kind of radiation we are already facing. Now there will be another set of poles on the same easement and carrying probably same amount of high voltage electricity through the wires, and will be the second set in the same easement. And on top of it, we have a gas line, a gas pipeline flowing into that easement. So the residents of Winfield Drive, we will be left in our backyard with 2 sets of high voltage power lines from 2 different power companies, 1 gas pipeline, all the same, in the same premises, and I do not know what kind of health hazard it will cause to us, apart from destroying the wildlife and the trees, the mature trees in our backyard. So I would expect that JCP&L will be considerate enough to explore alternate routes, which I believe there is one which will impact less homeowners, and will explore the possibility of taking their lines through that option. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Przicki, 273 Marcella Road. As you know, for probably I've lived here for over 40 years, and probably for 35 years I was always interested in the development and the preservation of Parsippany's land and its natural resources, especially the tract that most intrigues me right now is the Troy Meadow property. Wildlife Preserve owns most of that property, which is sensitive in nature. They don't pay taxes on it, yet there's areas of that tract that are not just zoned RCW, but residential and LIG, I believe it is. And they came before the planning board last night for a minor subdivision of a property which, in all honesty, when you look at their paperwork, they will sell it to a developer. Wildlife Preservation is a private nonprofit land conservation corporation dedicated to the preservation of natural areas, open space, wildlife habitat for conservation, education, and for research. Wildlife Preservation's mission, their mission statement, has always been to purchase and protect natural lands and wildlife, as is eminent for government acquisition, for passive natural use, park preservation, and wildlife sanctuaries. I believe this year the planning board is reviewing the master plan, of which, when they make suggestions for rezoning, you people have to pass ordinances for. I urge you to send notification to the planning board to put this piece of property on a priority list, to rezone it for what the wildlife preservation is supposed to be saving it for the RCW, Recreation, Conservation, Wildlife aspect of that property. Their mission statement, to protect and preserve. Therefore, I see no reason for the wildlife to object to the rezoning changes for the residents of Parsippany and for the state of New Jersey. On that piece of property now are 2 sites of bald nesting eagles, bald eagle nests, which is our national emblem. And the encroachment of development in that area, I feel, jeopardizes the sensitive nature of those wildlife creatures. And I'd rather see the eagles stay than the vultures' species development take over the uplands. So I urge you to contact the planning board to please review the Troy Meadow area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oops. Okay.
I have copies. I'm sorry. Can I just give you all the copies?
Take them right to the clerk.
Nancy.
You can bring them right to her. Yeah, we'll pass them.
One to Yancy.
Yancy, here, Yancy.
Just hand them over to Yancy.
Get the-
Hand them that, yeah, we'll get them.
Okay.
My name is Charles Klotzkin. I live at 65 Norman Avenue, Lake Hiawatha. Our property has been in my family since 1941. My father bought it shortly after Pearl Harbor Day. Passed to my mother, and finally passed to me now. So we've owned the property more than 70 years. I've always enjoyed the wildlife and the birds and the trees and everything else. And now JCP&L, which doesn't need more power lines, it doesn't have enough, it doesn't have an electricity need for the towers it's got, wants to go into that field behind my house. Now, they claim, well, there's a right-of-way there too, but I can see, without digging, I can see the vent lines for the gas lines in there. And I can't believe that they can't put in a tower in there on top of those gas lines without seriously endangering the whole region. And I urge you, whatever you can do, it will be deeply appreciated, because it's a nightmare for me. On top of everything else, Norman Avenue was severely flooded. I got 4.5 feet of water in my house with Hurricane Irene. So the housing values are way down. And if they want to come along and say, well, we'll give you a fair market value, where am I going to go with the fair market value? All right, so as I said, it doesn't look good. The only hope I have is that the gas company will say, hey, you can't put fresh power lines on top of our gas mains. But I think they would try it if nobody would oppose them. And I thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Valerie Devine, 79 Norman Avenue in Lake Hiawatha. I have not been here as long as everybody else from the area. I've been here since right before Irene. I came to the area, I'm closer to my family, and I'm also closer to work. But I was very upset when I saw the towers that are behind, not so much my house, but right in the area. And of course, with having the flood, that really devastated me. A gentleman before me, I also was walking into water quite high. I am concerned about whether our taxes are going to be reduced because of this, and the future plan of these additional towers that are going to be going up. I heard that there is an alternative to this, and I am asking that it be presented, and if that certainly can be looked at. Again, it's devastating to be there and to see these towers and to know that there's going to be further additions to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. How you doing? Where's the mayor? He's not required to be here?
No.
It's a council meeting. So then I'm going to trust you to pass on, because this is mainly towards him.
Could you just state your name and address?
Again, I apologize. Anna D. and Tennis, 33 Scholar Street, Parsippany-Troy Hills. All right. And just bear with me, because I'm on a crutch here.
Take the
Yeah,
mic.
you can take the
Is
mic.
he
and
sure?
sit down.
Whatever you're
Yes,
comfortable.
please.
Thank you, Roy.
This counts as Roy's 5 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry.
Just so you know, the administration is here representing the mayor.
So I trust you'll pass this information on to him then. In order to get to my point this evening, I have to backtrack and tell you about my daughter, Juliana. She's a student at Par High, and she's a committed student where she works very hard to support her sophomore class. Recently, she came home and spoke with my husband and I regarding the matter of their upcoming sophomore lock-in. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the sophomore lock-in is. It's an event that is for the sophomore class where they spent the whole evening at the school. They're locked into the school. It's an event that only the sophomores have. And it's been going on incident-free for 12 years now. But she came home really upset. She came home to a set of parents to tell us that she was told by her class advisor that the students would have to pay $800. $800 out of their fundraising money to the Parsippany Police Department for their safety. They were holding, again, I'm going to make it very clear to you, and you pass this on to the mayor, that they were holding the safety, the expense of the safety on the students, $800. So, of course, she came home to two parents, and we got very upset. I sent an email to the principal. I spoke with Dr. Mulrooney. He was a little taken back by the amount. And then there was some discussion with the SRO. The reason I'm bringing this up, because there's a point. I have a point. Then there was some kind of negotiation, and so for some reason the price got dropped down to $520, where the PTA interceded, and they said they were going to give the $500, and that there would only be $20 taken from the students. I wasn't satisfied with that. So I went to the Board of Ed meeting, and I dealt with Fran Orthwine, the president there. And she didn't have a clue what was going on. And she's the president of the Board of Ed. So then, in speaking, and having Dr. Fitzsimons, the current superintendent, respond to me, he said, no, there's a separate activity fund, and they would look into that. But then after questioning about that, in regards to that,
I wanted to get clarification as to why the SROs are not there Monday and Friday. And that's basically why I'm here today also. I see the SRO at all the overtime side gigs all the time. And he's available to do the side, but he's not available to work on Friday. The one at the Hills isn't available to work on Monday. This wasn't planned. There was meetings with the mayor, Phillips, and Dr. Fitzsimons, and this was supposed to be resolved back in September, at the beginning of the school year, and here we are February, and it hasn't been resolved. I'm here as a taxpayer, but I'm here as a mother, and not just a mother of Juliana and Dominic. I'm here as a mother of 7,000 plus kids, because I want to know why this matter hasn't been resolved, and I take it very personal that I can see the officers working overtime and filling their pockets with the overtime, but they're not available to work Monday and Friday. Now, I'm not blaming the officers and I'm not blaming you, but something has to stop here. Like I said before, this was supposed to be resolved at the beginning of the school year. And the way I wanted the mayor, because he was too busy on his election. But I am appalled, like today. We know what happened today. There was a lockdown at Brooklawn Middle School. The kids were locked down for 2 hours. So you put yourself in the position of those kids that had no bathroom, that were scared, that didn't know what to do. I don't understand why there's no SRO Monday and Friday. I had spoken personally with Chief Phillips that he could have sent multiple officers to a training course over last summer. He sent one. Now, the one that he sent, I find out that he's the state delegate now. Now, I'm a civil servant. I know what a state delegate, there's meetings, there's required meetings, and the police department have to let him go. So now, if he goes, where's the safety of the Hills? I don't need a part-time officer. I want an officer that's dedicated and motivated and is going to help my kids in that school. Now, we are in denial if you think that something can't happen in Parsippany. You know how I know something can happen in Parsippany? Why is there 2 cops here tonight? Why are there 2 cops here tonight and why don't have a cop in the schools on Mondays and Fridays? Do you guys not feel safe that you need 2 officers here? So I want to know why I don't have an officer at the Hills and why I don't have an officer full-time on Friday. And gentlemen and ladies, I'm sorry about my tone of voice, but this is very personal to me. It's very personal to me. It's personal to me when he could be here to give my daughter a certificate, but he can't be here to hear these citizens about JCP&L and my concerns. So I'm asking you, and I want something back in writing. I want to know how this is going to get resolved because they're dodging Dr. Fitzsimons.
30 seconds.
They're dodging the superintendent, and it's got to stop. And you got to work with the Board of Ed and get some resolution on this. Thank you.
If I may respond.
Thank you.
First off, just to let you know, I know no one on the council here has requested the officers to be here, so I really don't know why they're here either, why they've been here. I know none of us have requested them to be here.
But Council President.
Yes.
Can we request that the officers not be here? This is a council. This is a council meeting. This is not a mayor's meeting.
Yeah, that's correct. I would think so. Right. So, yes.
Don't dismiss.
We won't dismiss them now, but in the future we'll see if we can do that. Also, go ahead, Jasmine.
Let me just respond. My understanding is that both SROs started working 5 days a week last week.
They started working 5 days a week last week.
Yes.
8 hour, so they're going to be there 180 school days. So it just started last week. The resolution came in?
Well, the Board of Ed adopted their resolution a while ago. I can't remember when.
No, they haven't been there.
I'm just saying the Board of Ed adopted a resolution authorizing payment of overtime to the SROs to work the 5th day. But it only started last week.
Yeah, but you have a body there 8 hours. I don't need Costigan half a day at the Hills and half a day at the High.
No, that's...
There's a body in each high school has...
Each SRO will be working 5 days a week.
And how was that agreement made? Because I know they were looking for a sidebar with the union, and the union was refusing to do that.
The Board of Ed will be paying overtime for that 5th day.
So instead of paying overtime, why don't you just add additional officers to cover that day? Why would you want to pay overtime? You're paying them at a higher rate.
Because the Board of Ed wanted to have the same officer there, if
Wait.
possible.
As long as he's proactive, I hope. And does what he's supposed to be doing, not just standing there walking around and doing nothing, I hope. But I guess I'll deal with the Board of Ed then.
Jasmine, I just have a quick question about the lockdown night at the school. Why can't we have officers that are on duty that night just rotate the shift?
I don't know what the issue is, but I don't get into.
I mean,
details
just
like
to
that.
say, I mean, we have 2 officers here now that I'm guessing are probably on their shift.
Well, I made that recommendation. I said, make it a roving surveillance, have the officer get out of the car, check the area twice during the shift, and it wouldn't cost the kids anything. But that doesn't appear what they wanted. And it's been incident-free for 12 years, and you would have put the expense back on the township and not on the kids or the school. So I didn't understand why I didn't want to do that either if it's incident-free, and then you would have patrol. Because they're not driving by my house, at least let them drive by the high school.
I could probably speak for the 5 of us when this is the first we're hearing of this.
And that's why I came.
So,
Mr. Stanton, that's exactly why I came, because I'm sorry, I know, it's sad. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you. He knows what's going on, and he's not here. Well, he should be here. You voted him to be here. He should be. In other towns, just so you know, in other towns, the mayor's always there. Mr. Valori, I'm sorry.
Is there, in regards to not just only the SROs, what's the manpower like in regards to for security inside the schools itself? Do you know, Jasmine, at all? Or for security in the Parsippany Hills or Parsippany High, is there still civilian security officers still working there? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
yes.
Are there?
Okay.
Mr. Hunt.
But how much training do they really have to be
They're
there?
retired officers, I believe.
I think there's
No,
One of them definitely is at a Hoboken.
but not at the high.
Okay, that I don't know the person.
They're more like greeters. That's what I call them, greeters. All right,
And
thank you.
we'll do some research on that
I
also.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Jasmine, if we could look into the what the officers are here for. I mean, personally, I'd rather have them on the road than here unless there's something going on that we don't know about why they're here.
They're here for that.
Pat Patacha, 182 Hawkins Avenue. I told you this once before. I met Chief Phillips out in the hallway 2 weeks ago. Chief Phillips told me that it was his decision to man these men here. Okay? But truth is, it's your township council, and you do have that right to decide, I think, as Mike had said. But that's where the order came from. Again, I just want to go quickly. I want to know if you have come out with a answer to the question I asked on January 7th, whether or not Mr. Inglesino has a conflict representing us against RDR. Then again, do you have any responses to my 114 note that I left you, I handed out and gave you? I'd just like you to realize something, that when I handed those things in, both last week, the week before, I handed them to you as Township Council. I'm asking for you to answer these questions for me. So not only, I think this should be also be identified under your agenda process as correspondence, because I did hand it to you. I did talk to you about it. So it should be on there to show that it's still outstanding until we get these answered. So I would appreciate an answer soon. The Citizens Police Academy just shocked me the other day. All of a sudden, this is coming up again. Does anybody have any idea why it's changed again? Why we're considering going back to the Citizens Police Academy?
I don't know. I don't know why it was ever stopped in the first place.
Okay, well, maybe we can find out from the mayor, because last time, the person that ran it volunteered this time. Okay, so I want to make sure it's volunteer, no taxes to the taxpayers, you know? Make sure it's run like it was the last time, if it's going to be run.
I think it was advertised no cost. I mean, I know that would be to the residents, but
Yeah, but as far as, you know, I want to make sure it's a volunteer as opposed to a paid policeman being there, because it was a volunteer last time. And just that I agree with Mrs. D'Antenis. it's taken a long time to get these SROs and stuff to the schools. But one of the other things I agree with her on is the mayor does not have to be at these meetings, okay? Let's make that clear. He does not have to be at these meetings. He has been here for all meetings the first 4 years. My personal opinion is he's hiding. He's just not going to sit here and listen to the residents of Parsippany or try to respond to the residents of Parsippany. Okay? I find that as a failure. I've been here 4 years straight. He's here at every meeting. Now, with all the conflict going on with this town, this man does not show up and sit on the dais and listen to the public, the taxpayers who elected him. Not me, but those that did. Okay? So, seriously. Thank you.
Just to answer your question, the whole conflict issue and all that, that's still being reviewed. So,
Thank
you. Okay.
Hi, Anthony D'Antanis, 333 Schuyler Street, Parsippany. I just wanted to ask, or if, I don't know if you can answer the question, if Ms. Lim says, was there a memorandum of agreement signed by the mayor himself with the Board of Education to have these two officers work the overtime detail on the extra hours for the coverage of our safety of our kids?
The Board of Ed adopted a resolution. The township and the Board of Ed are going to be executing an agreement for the SROs.
So you're telling me that, so there's no memorandum of agreement, so you're just saying that they made an agreement. Are the officers going to be there or not? Because
Yes.
when I was on the Board of Ed, they danced around it.
The officers were supposed to start working 5 days a week last week.
Okay. All right, and so if we go there on a Friday, we expect someone to be at the high, and on a Monday, we expect someone to be there, to be at the hills, correct?
Yes.
And if they're not there, then who do we call to ensure the safety of our kids? Because obviously the mayor's not here to bring it to his attention, and, you know, everybody, you know, the secretary or the town clerk can give him the information, but he doesn't want to, you know, field the questions or field the heat from the township.
But
Who do we contact?
there may be times when there is no one there.
Why? Why? There's no, listen, ma'am, there's incomprehensible to leave our children unprotected. Why are they unprotected? Are you telling me there's a price on our children's heads? Is it an economic issue? Because obviously the township's making the Board of Ed pay more money for the safety of our kids. Is that what you're telling me?
Do you want me to answer the question?
Yes.
And the officer might be sick one day.
So then they replace him with another officer.
I'm pretty certain that was not the agreement.
No. Well, let me ask you a question. So if there's no officer available, so you're telling me there's not enough officers in town then to cover the other officer that's out?
I'm not saying anything.
Because the Board of Ed is paying for an officer to be there full-time. So if he's not there, who's going to be, they have to send a replacement. If a crossing guard doesn't show up on Friday for his post, the police department sends an officer to replace him for the safety of the kids. What's the difference if the officer is outside the building crossing the kids, or he's inside the building protecting their safety from something an incident that could have happened today? What's the difference?
Oh, I can tell you my personal opinion about.
I want a professional opinion. I don't want a personal opinion.
All right, then why don't you have a conversation with?
I did. He told me he was manpower short. He can't afford to send anybody, enough people to school, enough people to go there. That's why the mayor should be here. He should be hiring more cops for the protection, not only the citizens, but our students. There's a building, there's 7,000 kids in this district, and as Dr. Fitzsimons said, the police officers patrol empty houses every day. And listen, I was a cop for 27 years. We patrol empty houses every when people at work. Dr. Fitzsimons has 2 high schools with 1,200 plus people in there, and they're not giving us the protection that we deserve. That's my gripe. That the mayor should be there saying, and he can do it. He's the mayor. He has the power to say, I want a cop in that school 7 to 3, 180 days a year. They're paying for him to be there. So what are they doing with the money? Or they're just not paying him for that day? Is that what you're telling me?
Can I?
Right? Well, what are they doing?
Can I just say, I know you mentioned that somebody wanted the same officer there, so that's why they were willing to pay the overtime to that
No,
officer.
listen,
So if, wait,
I
hold on.
understand that.
If that officer's not there, if that officer's out sick or on vacation that particular day, they're not willing to take another officer who's being paid overtime just to have an officer in the school? Is that the school's choice, or?
They, even though the meeting was less than a week ago, or it's about a week ago, I can't remember, I'm pretty sure that the agreement was that if the officer is out for one day, and it would be a sick day, it wouldn't be a vacation days, the officers, the SROs do not take vacation during the school year.
Right.
They take their vacations when school is not in session. But if it's just one sick day, then there would not be a replacement officer. I'll double check and get back to you, but I'm pretty sure that if it was just one day, that they would not bring in a replacement officer.
Okay, then relay this to the mayor for me. When the officer that's now the New Jersey PBA state delegate goes a week away for the state convention, goes away to the mini convention for another week, and goes to bi-monthly meetings, and he's supposed to be assigned to the Hills, who are they gonna put there? Nobody? Am I right or wrong, ma'am? Well, you're gonna have to replay it and get some answers.
This is the first I'm
30
hearing
seconds.
that there's a state delegate who's an SRO.
Okay, well, I'm telling you now.
Well, we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Did you come back to talk? You want me to talk first?
No.
Oh, I thought maybe you.
I mean,
Okay.
I heard yelling, I just came out.
Okay.
And I can explain, listen, Council President, if you don't mind.
Go ahead,
one
sure.
comment. Afterwards, I guess you heard things that were just going on about SRO officers. That's what I heard when I came out. And I will discuss it with the residents if they would like to meet with me later on, because I don't know what transpired and what's even being talked about, so I really can't respond to it. But I will talk to the two residents that are blaming some sort of a meeting that took place that never did take place. So I'd be more than happy to speak with them. Thank you, Roy. Council President. Thank you. Thank you, Roy.
Just give me a second. Roy Messmer, 10 Drumlin Drive. I mean, I was going to start off, it's a pretty serious night between the power lines and what's going on, and of course what happened today at Brooklawn. So I'm not going to start off with a little, I'll do it next month. I'm not going to jump around. I'm going to cover the last topic, the big topic last. But number one, did any of you get over to the Central to see that mural on our astronaut? How despicable that was when I brought? Not yet. Not yet. Yeah. All right. Well, that's why you can't work for me, Mr. DePier. Anybody else? Robert, you didn't get? What do you? Can you? You can take some of my time. It's despicable, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Disgusting. Regarding Forge Pond, you know, I could talk about, and I had a little conversation, 10-minute conversation with Julie Peterson earlier today, but I said earlier, is this my picture now, Jasmine? I can keep this one? This is what I like to see Forge Pond back at. There is no reason why it can't be back there. Whether we got to go after the Wilfs on this, or whoever destroyed that dam. And if you want to pass it around, this is what it used to look like. And that, by the way, let's look at the date. It's on June 2006, so it's 8 years ago. Next thing. I spoke about the mural. Today I had a meeting down in Whippany, and I always like to go different ways. It's just a worry in me so I can't get ambushed. What's going on with the Baldwin House? It looks horrible.
Oh, I'm having a meeting with the Historic Preservation. We're looking for grant money.
Obviously, we're not using the garage because the snow's packed up into the garage. I mean, you know, I'm not even going to comment on that Baldwin House right now. I'm sure we overpaid for it. I did want to keep it as a historical site, but whatever. Mr. DiPiero, yes, I am centering this to you, but I would love the council president to meet with me, and because I think it's something that Lou Valori and I can work on very closely. Because there's, no offense to our newspaper people here, because we don't have the coverage like we used to have. People retired, things changed with AOL and Patch, blah, blah, blah. But so people are watching the video. 4 people called me up since last month. I know it's not a lot, but 4 people. Roy, you're absolutely right about the reservist. If we're taking care of township employees who are being called to active duty, then we should be taking care of the reservists who are not township employees. And I'm not going to let that, till God takes me up to heaven, I'm not going to let that go, because that really ticks me off. It's been going on since the late 1990s. I remember when Henry Luther stepped down and said to me, Roy, you are absolutely right. I said, Henry, get up to the mic and say something. All right, next thing. I had a great meeting yesterday. As John knows, I think highly of Justin Marquetta. We had a super meeting. For about an hour, we spoke about the next step regarding the occupancy tax ordinance or whatever. Just that there's a good crowd here tonight. I just wanted everybody to know this was something started by our school paras. But I took this, I asked them if I could have a couple of signs. The occupancy thing is not just about us getting the money, but I want to get the money if we're not going to be able to have some judge rule against us. We don't want strangers in our neighborhoods. Just like we don't want the paras losing their jobs at the schools and having strangers take care of our certain kids. So I don't know, John, you're smiling at me. I did miss you yesterday. Did you?
Mary and I are having a moment.
Listen. Did you have a chance to speak to Justin about our meeting yesterday?
I did. He got very encouraged by it.
But he didn't have that letter that I had for you out of state. He didn't see it until yesterday.
Okay.
So you didn't pass it on to him. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going into detail because too much was covered. Justin and I only met yesterday, but we're on the same page. And he's got to work because before you know it, stop smiling at me. I'm not.
I'm distracted by Mary. What can I tell you?
Just because I sent my father, it was funny, I'll tell you a funny story. I sent my father a Valentine's card for the first time. He calls me up, did you switch teams or something? Are you a girly boy now? You know, busting my wife's chops and my chops just before I got to the meeting. But we got to move on this because what my suggestion was, that letter goes out with the tax bills. Okay?
Okay.
All right, that's all I have to say tonight. And I appreciate the residents coming out tonight and talking about the issues. Thank you. I'm driving in a minute.
You got 30 seconds.
All right. I'm going to buy 3 mega tickets for 6 elected officials who can answer this quickly. A West Point candidate said the following: not making the baseball team at West Point was one of the greatest disappointments of my life, maybe the greatest. Whoever can say who that guy was, I'll buy 3 mega tickets for you Friday night.
Ted Williams.
Come on, take it. Ted Williams, West Point, he didn't go to, oh my God. You buy me 3 tickets. Come on.
Bob Feller?
Who?
Bob
He didn't go
Feller.
to West Point.
Oh,
Come on.
I didn't know that.
Come on.
So-
Soldier? Come on.
No idea.
Eisenhower.
There you go.
Come on.
You had the Red Sox shirt on, I figured.
But look what he became.
I think Eisenhower was a Yankee fan.
Lived under the Charles Return. You should have known that.
Excuse me, Jerry Manning, Rainbow Lakes. I noticed on the agenda tonight, they're going to be passing on some propositions, one of which is the town attorney. Now, I've been a regular at these meetings for the past 15 or so years, and we've gone through a few attorneys. And so far as I can see, the attorney that's sitting tonight is probably the best of the bunch. Not probably, he is. I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, I filed an appeal on my tax assessment. And when I went before the board in Morristown, the sitting attorney at that time presented his case, I presented mine, and the outcome was I beat the attorney for 40 grand. And at the next meeting, he approached me in the hall and asked if I wanted to work for him. I'm not an attorney, I'm just a regular person. So if you got an attorney, I would say this. John Inglesino is probably the most knowledgeable in municipal government than the whole council put together, with maybe the exception of Mike DePiero. So why would anybody want to not approve the man? I heard previously about a conflict of interest, which kind of made me shake my head. There was an appointment made at the reorg meeting, which I consider a conflict of interest. They appointed a liaison between the council and the Chamber of Commerce the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Now, I don't know if that's a conflict or not, but it sure looks like it to me. And we have 2 occasions where Mr. Karifi was involved in conflict of interest, so I don't think that should be a problem. The first time around, a couple of years ago, he tried to unseat his own boss. And then subsequent to that, only about a year ago, as a retired officer of the law, if you will, he bloviated about what was going on with a, excuse me, internal affairs investigation of his brother, which is totally a conflict of interest. So please, do the right thing, and let's retain John Inglesino as the town attorney.
Okay, see no one else? Yep.
My name is Christine Garcia from 21 Arnold Drive in Parsippany. And the reason I'm here is to protest the proposed second line of transmission towers, not PSC&G, JCP&L. I mean, we've already, ever since 2008, we have been sort of like in a state of limbo about the big giant towers going up from PSC&G, and we were all very upset about that, possibility. But we all were hoping against hope that maybe the National Park Service would give them like the no-build option, which they did, and then it was changed because of something going on with the EPA. So it was kind of like forced down everybody's throats. Okay, now we have these big towers. Now we have to look at these towers every single day. All right, so they're here, and there's nothing we could do about it. But ever since 2008, I've been fighting against it, and now PSC and JCP&L wants to do the same thing, and it seems like totally unfair. We went through 5 years or so of worrying about these power lines, and now there's another set of them that's going to go in, and it just seems like totally unconscionable that it would even be considered. And now I understand that Spectra has its gas lines, and it would be totally dangerous, I believe, I'm not sure, but I've been told it would be very, very dangerous if you build a second set of power lines so close to the Spectra natural gas lines. And there's also an alternative route that I heard about going through, I'm not sure where, it's kind of near Rockaway Meadow School.
Close to wetlands.
The wetlands, yeah. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to just ask, please, don't allow another set of power lines, to go on that right of way. It just seems like totally unfair to the residents there. They've already lost so much value in their house, and and it's an eyesore. Those towers are an eyesore. Who wants to look at them every single day? So I'm here to protest the second set of transmission lines from JCP&L, and to lend my support to everybody here that also opposes them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Regarding that, if I may, my information is third hand, so I don't know how reliable it is, but I heard that when JCP&L picked that route, they did not know about the gas line, and now they're investigating whether they can even go near that gas line. So that route might be up in the air, and hopefully the gas line prevents them from going that way.
Good.
That's third hand information, for what it's worth.
Good evening. Steve Gershberg, 23 Winfield Drive, part of the devastated homeowners group. Again, regarding those new power lines, my house backs up to the Arlington Plaza Shopping Center. A resident of town, 37 years. We've had the glorious option of looking at looking at the shopping center all these years. We have a buffer in between us. It would be just terrible if those lines went where they're proposed and to take that buffer away. The line happens to be going right over my property, my backyard, and my next door neighbor's backyard. It's a good possibility that they're going to put a tower or a pole, a monopole, in my backyard so that those lines will make the turn to go in the further direction that they need to be. I have kids that are grown up in Parsippany. Now I have grandkids. I've been blessed with grandkids. My kids, we've discussed the fact that these power lines are going to be coming through, possibly coming through the property. They don't want to bring the grandkids over to the house if the power lines go through the property. There are health issues that everybody's read about in the newspaper time and time again. I myself have health issues. I'm not interested in those lines coming through. If they do come through, Parsippany will lose a resident that's been around for 37 years. You're talking about devaluating our homes. We already look at those green giant towers, as everybody's indicated. Those things are huge and they're ugly. When the PSC power cut has been there for all these years, the towers, I guess, were a lot smaller. But now those 200-foot towers are just terrible. Now Jersey Central Power and Light wants to put in 100-foot towers right on our properties. You're talking about 28 to 30 residents that Jersey Central Power and Light is going to have to ask for easements. Why not take the alternate route? Why not have the town council help us in getting that alternate route invoked? It would be a godsend to all the residents in our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, see no one else coming forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Yes, before we go on, I just want to ask Jasmine,
Yes.
is it possible you could get in touch with JCP&L, set up
They
a
can, sure.
meeting?
Excuse, Council, keep calling you Council President, Councilman, excuse me, Council President. I'm setting up a meeting as we speak with Jersey Central Power and Light. I spoke to Mr. Dolsky.
Okay.
And we will be in contact with Addie Cologne tomorrow, and she's aware. I've spoken to her on several occasions. I'm just going to give you a little refresher. When we had the PSC and G lines were coming in, I don't think no town fought those lines as hard as Parsippany did. We fought. We even had our meetings here with 16 other towns fighting Jersey Central Power, not Jersey Central, PSC and G. I had the township attorney involved. We went down to Trenton. We did everything we possibly could. There was Mayor Joe Panulo of East Hanover, who was very adamant about the lines as well as we were. And when I got to the BPU, it was history from that point on. And that's, hopefully we don't have to get to the BPU, because it was very discouraging at that point. But this seems to be a little bit different. Jersey Central Power and Light's more than willing to meet.
Okay. And at the same time, Ms.
PSC and, don't forget, PSC and G was constructing these monstrosities on their own right of way. They
Right.
weren't taking anybody else's property. This is not the case now.
Right.
So it's totally different situation.
President Karifi, could I also ask you to send 2 council members to this meeting once it's set up with the residents?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll volunteer.
I volunteer.
Well, if I may, Council President, my Councilman DePiero has been involved with it. He actually brought to my attention Mr. Dolsky's, so it would be probably conducive to have Mr. Councilman DePiero
Sure.
and whoever else you choose.
Mr. Paluso.
Yeah, I just would like to add as well, Mayor, last week, we talked about the budget being adopted and presented to us. Is there any progress on that?
Yes, we're working on it, and I don't, when should we have it to the council by? We're not gonna have it by February 7th, as you know. End of February, beginning of March. We're waiting for the numbers from Trenton, and that can, and for other numbers as well, so I'll let you speak.
It's always interesting that the state gives us a deadline for
know,
finishing
yeah.
our budget, and then they go past their deadline and give us our
Right,
information late.
exactly. That's exactly what happens. When I was on the council, I used to, same thing when the other mayors, but after a while, you start saying, okay, you don't have the numbers, and you didn't really, you just let it go at that. When you got them, the council worked, we do line by line, and everything went well, so,
Thank you, Mayor.
welcome.
I just wanted to also take an opportunity to wish all the ladies in here the happy Valentine's
There
Day.
you
It's a special day. Remember your loved ones this week. So happy Valentine's Day.
How about the men, Robert?
Reminding all the men out there. I just wanted to say the reason why I'm not wearing a red heart today, I'm wearing actually a red dress, is because I want to also remind everybody that although it's Valentine's Day week, everybody should keep in mind that heart disease is the #1 killer of women in America. We need to prevent that and take preventive measures. So take care of your loved ones as well during this special week. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for Jasmine. Good. Were you able to work on, or are you getting me that information that we spoke about last week with the spreadsheet?
The spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm reviewing it right now. It was just prepared, completed last week for 2013.
Okay, great.
So I just want to review it before I go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just have a couple items. Jasmine, last month we said that the insurance broker thing was going to be on our agenda for this month, for the broker, for the insurance, the contract and everything. Where are we at with that?
It's gonna probably next month, March.
Are we going to be sending out RFQs for that, or?
We haven't discussed that yet. I will discuss it with Jasmine tomorrow, and I'll have her get back to you.
Also, I know last week at the end of the meeting, I had brought up about the plaque for Mr. Vigilante, and when I noticed that it's not covered up, but is it possible maybe that we could do, I don't know, we can do a date, could we maybe do something?
We're going to do something. In fact, as I was talking to Councilman Valori last week, I said to him, when we get the plaque, we're going to do a ceremony, and Louis said, it's up here already.
Yeah, no, I know, because I asked Jasmine, and she said it's up, yeah.
I was kind of surprised, and
maybe even, I don't know what
We're
time,
gonna do
but maybe
something.
if we did it, maybe even a half hour before our next council
we can
meeting,
do
and we can
something.
invite Jimmy's mom and his brother and daughter and family.
And Mayor, just to let you know, myself and Rob Paluso, we were with Jimmy's mom on Saturday, helping her out at the house.
Okay.
So we did make her aware of the plaque and that you're going to be having some type of ceremony also.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman.
Anything else? No? Okay. Consent agenda?
Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine, non-controversial by the Township Council. Be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member so requests, which case each item be removed from the consent agenda, considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Paluso.
Yes.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes.
Mr. Valori.
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance for introduction. Ordinance 2014:03. Mr. Valori?
Yes, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to change the name of a certain portion of Longview Road to Long Road. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on by first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on February 11th, 2014, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on March 18th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. Prevailing time or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given the opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Ordinance number 2014:04. Mr. DePiero?
Ordinance 2014:04, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to amend and supplement Chapter 4, Administration of Government, Article 12, Department of Human Services, to increase fees for emergency medical services provided by the non-volunteer Par-Troy EMS Squad. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on February 11, 2014, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on March 18, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Ordinance 2014:05, I believe is not ready yet, so if we're gonna,
You can introduce by title.
okay, I think, we're not ready to do, I don't
Do you,
know, is there
you
a,
want to have further discussion on it?
Yes.
yes,
I like the motion to table it.
But are you going to have a discussion tonight?
no.
You don't want,
No.
you don't want, so when are we going?
Just put it, you want to put it on the next agenda?
For
or-
next agenda,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll put it on for next agenda.
It was the advice of legal counsel. It's not ready yet.
So the ordinance is ready.
Correct.
Right.
There's no title to it.
We've introduced by title.
Right.
Yeah, no, we're not ready.
No.
We want to
No.
table.
All right.
We'll
It's
table
just
till
that-
next week.
It's just,
Next meeting.
we're not going to be able to have an ordinance ready unless you have a discussion before. I mean, I sent you out
Okay.
what the staff and Mike Hero and I had worked on. And if you have any comments on that, you should let us know so that we can draft an ordinance that is agreeable.
Okay. I mean, just so the record's, I mean, Jasmine's right, you can introduce by title only. I know that, though, before we, can finalize the ordinance, we're going to need some policy direction of what you want to do. So whether you want to talk about that amongst yourselves and then give us direction, and we can do that, or however you want to proceed is fine.
And we can hold off and not table it, have a discussion at the first meeting.
That's
next
fair.
month, and then have, we certainly can introduce by title the week after, and then attorneys
Get it approved.
draft the ordinance.
Okay.
Accordance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, that's good.
Let's do that.
So you're still gonna,
We're going to go forward with
So
this.
we'll,
Okay.
we'll just table it.
okay.
Okay, so I'll continue the motion to table it.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Why not?
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Resolutions, non-consent agenda. Mr. Paluso.
Appointments, R 2014-011. Thinking about the appointments, I believe Mr. Manning had come up tonight, made some comments. In light of that, hearing there's some public discussion, I would like to table this right now and ask Mr. Inglesino for a resume that I can review. I have not worked directly with you, so I'd like to make a motion to
If I
table.
may, this is just, we're now 4 meetings out. This is my appointment. If you want to vote no, you vote no. I think you know John Inglesino's resume very, very well. He's done a great job for the township over the last 4 years. I don't even know why we would table it again. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
We have a motion on.
Just
on
in
the
all
floor.
fairness, you know, just, I'll second that motion on the table. I'll
Well,
respect your
they
decision.
have, if I may, and I just want to, we do have a letter, 2 letters, I think,
Yeah,
from Conflicts Council indicating that Mr. Valori and Mr. Karifi should recuse themselves on matters pertaining to me. My suggestion to them and to the governing body is that they follow that direction. If you want to make a motion to table, that's fine, but my view is that you should respect the letter and adhere to the letter that letters that Conflicts Council has submitted.
But we do have a motion, and it was seconded to table right now.
Yeah, we're just going to table it.
Well, we need a roll call. Roll call on that?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Stanton,
Abstain.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
3 yes.
Well,
Let's say it's still.
R 2014-25. Mr. Paluso.
In reference to R 2014-025, I would also like to table that as well.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
No.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Council President, if I may ask Councilman Paluso why?
Well, as I mentioned before, being newly elected to the council, these appointments, I do not have a lot of information on them. I'd like to take a look at resumes and learn more about the department heads.
Okay, R 2014-26. Mr. Paluso.
On R 2014-026, I'd like to make a motion to table that as well.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Abstain.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
It's 3 yes.
R 2014-27. Mr. Paluso.
Council President,
Yes.
sorry. I just want to note for the record that Matthew Young is my son.
Okay.
I'll just get his resume ready, because
Okay, R 2014-027, I'd like to make a motion to table that as well.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Abstain.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
3 yes.
R 2014-28. Mr. Paluso.
R 2014-028, same, I'd like to make a motion to table that, please.
And I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
No.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
3 yes.
R 2014-29.
R 2014-029, I'd like to make a motion to table that.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
No.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. R 2014-30.
R 2014-030. I'd like to make a motion to table that.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
No.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
3 yes.
R 2014-31, Mr. Stanton.
Resolution, the Township Council of Township Parsippany-Troy Hills awarding a lease agreement to AP Construction, Inc. for the operation of fats, oils, grease processing facility. Motion to approve the above resolution by.
I second that.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. R 2014-32, Mr. Valori.
Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills to join the Morris County Adaptive Recreation Program. Motion to approve the above resolution by.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. R 2014-33, Mr. DePiero.
Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills awarding a contract for on-site wellness coaching services. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. R 2014-34, Mr. Paluso.
R 2014-034, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills amending resolution R 2013-255, authorizing a person-to-person transfer of plenary retail distribution license for wine and for a Wines and Liquors LLC. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Okay, before we go into closed session, I just wanted to add one thing. I'd just like to congratulate Mr. Paluso on being inducted into the Parsippany High Hall of Fame next week. The ceremony is going to be on next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I believe. They moved it. They postponed it.
The weather.
It's supposed to be Thursday, but because of the weather.
Thank you.
Mr. Council President, if I may, just for the benefit of the public, in terms of department heads, who have not been approved, including myself, those folks under this form of government will remain in their positions as holdovers until such time as the mayor would make another appointment that might be ratified. But if the mayor's appointments are not voted on or rejected, then those folks, including myself, would remain as holdovers in those positions. And as township attorney, I would still maintain the ability to assign matters to other counsel on an as-needed basis. The other lawyers who are doing work for the township are the lawyers who are in the other resolutions tonight, and I think they all pretty much are involved in ongoing matters for the township and will continue in that capacity.
Okay, closed session. Resolution, whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. This is to discuss ongoing litigation
And contracts?
and contracts.
Yeah, and a contract.
A contract. Okay, entertain a motion.
Make a motion, go into close.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
All right.
We're on.
Motion to reconvene into open session.
Second it.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all four. Good night, all four.
Good night, all four.